This has Rockets fans stressing out after the news of Fred VanVleet tearing his ACL, making him out for next season. And the trade circulations have just begun as we have a new trade update that could possibly occur before the season starts. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Donovan Ricondo. We have a new mock trade for you guys right here on Rockets Digest, and it's a very interesting one that's going to get people talking. And as always, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so now if you want to stay up to date on all of your latest news, rumors, and content regarding your favorite H-Town team, the Houston Rockets. And we have a pretty interesting report here today as the Rockets have been predicted to acquire a 20-point-per-game guard for a former third overall pick to fill Fred VanVleet's shoes. And this is a hot topic with the Rockets fans. As we know, Fred VanVleet is not going to be on this team next season. He was supposed to be an instrumental part of this team signing that new contract and having him for the next 2 years. There's been a couple of names that have been tossed around of who the Rockets can acquire to just give them some more depth at the point guard position. Russell Westbrook, Emmanuel Quickly are some quick too, but FanSided's Cal Durrett has the Rockets acquiring Coby White from the Chicago Bulls. This is his prediction. This is nothing set in stone by any means. This is simply a move that the Rockets can make before the season starts. The Rockets would acquire Coby White in exchange for Reed Sheppard, Josh Okogie, the newly acquired Josh Okogie, and a 2029 first-round pick. And he talks a lot about this trade, and he discusses it right here. He says Coby White could find a similarly frosty market if he's expecting a giant payday. Nevertheless, he'd be perfect for the Rockets in the short term. White, being a high-volume three-point shooter, could help a spacing-starved Rockets team. They ranked just 21st in three-point percentage last season, but if they were to add White to the recently acquired Kevin Durant, then that would dramatically improve their overall offensive efficiency. And he is not lying at all. I do really like Coby White as a player. I think he's one of the younger guys in the NBA that I like the way he plays, and I like the hustle that he brings. And he's brought that since his days at the University of North Carolina. He has been kind of that hustle player that has made him really fun to watch. And there's no doubt in my mind that if he was on this Rockets team, he would be absolutely a blast to watch. We would embrace him with open arms. And I want to take a look at the stats that he has acquired for the last season. He averaged 33 minutes per game, 33 minutes per game last year, 20.4 points per game, a 20-point score. That's second most on the Rockets if he was on the team last season. I think Jalen Green was at 21. He was at 20. Rebounds, 3.7, 4.5 assists per game. Shooting 45% from the field and 37% from the three-point line, which is always good to see. He shoots 38% on corner threes, 76% of his threes are assists. He's a good catch and shooter, and 52% of all shots are threes. So he's doing a lot of heavy three-point shooting in his game. And if you recall, last year, this was a Rockets team that struggled at the three-point line. There are a lot of advantages of bringing a guy like Coby White, who can play the point guard position, who can shoot threes, onto your team, and who can, most importantly, score. He can absolutely score. He's a young guy that can score. Kind of can be a different version of a Jalen Green, considering that we had him last year. That's the kind of shoes that a guy like Coby White can fill. But the question is now, right? Would this make sense for the Bulls? Would this make sense for the Rockets? What's the story behind that? Well, the Bulls have a plethora of guards like Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong, who are only suffering because of White's minutes, right? And they could look to free that space up. And it's a good note to have that. I think one of our buddies from Bulls Digest pointed this out to me, saying that Coby White can only re-sign for 4 years, $89 million with the Bulls, which is a lot of money, which he says by the end of season, whether there's a trade, whether there's not a trade, he is going to be gone for next season. So if you're the Bulls front office, why not trade him now and get something out of Coby White, who's a very, very valuable player, who would be very valuable on the market. And so that's kind of the scenario for the Bulls. They have really good guards that aren't getting playing time, but not as much playing time, just because you have Coby White seeking this really high value contract. And so that is one thing to consider. Although Sheppard was the third overall pick, this is us transitioning towards the Rockets, he may be a different timeline than the rest of the Rockets. Shepherd is entering year 2. Kind of struggled to get minutes in year 1, which is not necessarily, I want to say, surprising, but it was definitely a halt in his development as a player. That's why we saw him in Summer League trying to get some of his groove back. He had that 28-point game in Summer League, which is really cool to see him have and see him thrive in playing basketball, which is really good for his development. But at the same time, is he exactly what this team needs right now? Rafael Stone has said on record, he just needs to be good for us next year. He's got to be that backup point guard. He's got to be, the 3rd overall pick, right? Now things have changed, right? The starting point guard for your team is out for the season. Who's going to play the point guard position? Amen Thompson, could be Kevin Durant. Reed Sheppard could slip his way into the starting role. We shall see how the season plays out, but there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of things that need to be controlled by this front office. And so that's why a trade like this, it makes sense on paper. Now, if you're asking me for my opinion on what I think the Rockets should do, I am a huge fan. I'm a huge proponent of how invested we are in a guy like Reed Sheppard, right? I do think Reed Sheppard, as Rafael Stone said, is going to have to be good. He's just going to have to be that guy. We invested in him. We've been working with him, especially on the defensive end. I personally really like Reed Sheppard. I think he could be a really, really good player for this team. I would have hoped that we were able to get him in a backup role rather than and have Fred VanVleet healthy rather than the situation that we are in now. I think that's going to be, we'll see if that's a deterrent to his development or if that's a propeller. But at the same time, I do have faith in Reed Sheppard. And I also have faith in the 2029 first round pick. As many of you know, a lot of contracts are going to be up and contracts are and players are just going to get more and more expensive. And so it's always good. And this is what the Thunder did for many years, or for them building the championship team that they have right now. But spacing out your draft picks and taking draft picks where it matters, right? And so like this year, the Rockets were able to not, use a draft pick because we already have the assets that we need. But in 3 years or 4 years' time, those assets are going to need to be replenished. They're going to need to be replaced. And a 2029 first-round draft pick is something that is going to be very important to this team down the line. I do think that is in our timeline is going to be a draft pick that is going to be necessary. Hopefully that is still the case. And so hopefully, I personally don't think this trade should be made, especially considering the contract situation with Coby White and how expensive of a player that he is going to be. And, you've already invested in Jabari Smith Jr. You are seemingly going to invest in Tari Eason and, of course, Alperen Şengün when the time comes and all these things. But I do think we have our young guys. I do think we have enough to build a championship team on. It's just a matter of can Reed Sheppard step up to the plate and can this team find a way to get this offense going and be able to be as successful as they were going to be with Fred VanVleet on the court. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the Houston Rockets should make a trade like this? And if not, is there any other player on the market that you want to add to this team to play point guard for this season? We've got a lot of new updates for the Houston Rockets, so please stick around. They're starting to get into practice mode. As we've seen some of the stuff that they've been saying in the media. It's just got me and it's got Jace. It's got a lot of us here at Digest Media very excited for this season for the Houston Rockets. And so with that, I will see you guys on the next one. Adios.